All right, let's jump right into this explainer and completely disassemble the multi-billion-dollar creator economy. We're going to uncover the hidden systemic costs behind the content we all consume every single day. I mean, think about it for a second. How many hours a week do you personally spend watching these creators? We usually just see this incredibly polished, glamorous final product on our screens. But today, we're lifting the hood to look directly at the engine that's actually powering it all.
We've all seen it recently, right? You've probably noticed this massive wave of abrupt channel abandonments. Creators you've watched for literally years are suddenly posting these tearful goodbye messages. Or sometimes, they just quietly fade away from the internet entirely. And it's incredibly jarring to witness. Seeing someone who seemingly has it all, the wealth, the adoring audience, absolute creative freedom, just walk away. Which really begs the question, what exactly happens when your absolute dream job is actually being controlled by an invisible machine?
To really wrap our heads around the scale of this machine, we first have to recognize the sheer financial weight of what we're talking about here. Influencer marketing isn't just some niche hobby anymore. As of recent data, it is a massive $21.2 billion industry. That's billion with a B. And here is the crazy catch that makes this entire ecosystem so incredibly fragile. That colossal economic structure is built entirely on the personal energy, the creativity, and the emotional labor of individual human beings. So let's get into Section 1, the creator burnout epidemic. Let's look past the glamorous facade. We need to start by contrasting the shiny exterior of this industry, the free products, the constant travel, the fame, with the stark reality on the ground. Because what we are witnessing right now is a mass exodus driven by deep, systemic exhaustion. And listen, creator burnout isn't just your typical I need a weekend off job fatigue. It's a profound, incredibly unique type of exhaustion. In a traditional job, you can clock out at 5 p.m. But for a creator, the line between their personal identity and their work completely dissolves. They are their brand. So when they fail, or when those analytics just mysteriously drop, it feels like a deeply personal rejection rather than just a regular bad day at the office. When creators are pushed to their absolute limits, the symptoms aren't just feeling a little tired. We're talking serious physical and mental health red flags here. We see creators reporting a constant, draining lack of energy, entirely losing interest in topics they once genuinely obsessed over, dealing with intense anxiety, and even facing serious physical symptoms like chronic sleep issues and migraines. This level of exhaustion fundamentally strips away their ability to innovate, and frankly, ruins the very passions that launched their careers in the first place. Which brings us to Section 2, the invisible algorithmic boss. Let's talk about the system's actual design. This shift in perspective is absolutely crucial because it moves the blame away from the individual and puts it right on the systemic design. Creators aren't just burning out because they aren't working hard enough. They are burning out because they're reporting to a boss they literally can't even see. This invisible boss operates using Dicopolis's algorithmic decision-making taxonomy, which breaks down into 4 relentless steps. Think of a simple cooking upload. The algorithm classifies it, associates it with similar content, prioritizes it based on watch time, and then aggressively filters out anything that doesn't hook a viewer in the first 3 seconds. It is a nonstop automated factory line constantly judging the massive amounts of data these creators upload. Now, here's where it gets incredibly stressful. Because these algorithms are heavily protected as corporate trade secrets, they function as a complete black box. Creators can see what they put in, their hard work, and they can see the output, the views and revenue, but the inner functions, the actual rules of the game, entirely mysterious. Picture a creator uploading a project they spent 100 hours on, sitting in the dark, refreshing the page in pure anxiety, desperately trying to figure out how their work is actually being evaluated by lines of hidden code. Sociologist Sarah Thorne hits the nail on the head here, noting that anxiety arises when we try to satisfy the desires of an unknown other. And the algorithm acts exactly as this invisible, all-powerful other. It constantly demands fresh material, but actively hides the rules for success. Just imagine trying to please a boss who constantly changes their mind, never actually speaks to you directly, gives 0 performance reviews, but holds total, absolute control over your paycheck. That is the daily, grueling reality of the algorithmic other. Moving on to Section 3, the trans-parasocial trap. This is what we call the audience engine. You see, the algorithm isn't the only source of pressure here. We also have to unpack this audience engine, where viewers themselves act as highly demanding, constantly present clients. To really get this trap, we need to compare the past with the present. Back in the day, traditional media was unidirectional. It was a one-way street. You watched a TV show, you were a fan of an actor, and that was the end of it. Comfortable, one-sided fandom. Modern social media, though, it is entirely bidirectional. It demands intense two-way interactions. Creators are expected to reply to comments, respond to DMs, and process constant real-time feedback.
Recent research by Lu really highlights this massive shift from traditional parasocial dynamics to what they now call trans-parasocial ties. In this modern dynamic, the relationship is collectively reciprocal. It is synchronously interactive, meaning it's happening right now in real time. And the content is quite literally co-created with the audience based on their ongoing demands. The fans genuinely feel like they own a piece of the creator. And while that makes the relationship incredibly intimate, it also makes it highly demanding and almost impossible to ever just switch off.
All right, Section 4, the illusion of free agency. Let's look at the resulting systemic exhaustion. When you combine this complex, interlocking machine, these invisible algorithmic bosses mixed with intensely demanding trans-parasocial clients, it violently extracts energy from creators. It basically creates a situation where being an independent creator is essentially just an illusion of free agency. Grounding the sociology in hard data, research from Influence Flow shows that 68% of creators explicitly point to this algorithmic pressure as a primary stressor driving them toward the brink. We also see 45% adopting AI tools literally just to keep their heads above water. And interestingly, there's a 30% increase in satisfaction from simply taking planned breaks. The data proves it. The systemic strain is profoundly real. Finally, Section 5, tinkering and sustainable strategies. How to actually survive all of this. So how on earth does this build into actionable solutions? How can creators hack this oppressive system to not just survive, but maybe even thrive? Well, to survive the black box, many creators evolve into what researchers call tinkerers. Tinkerers wield their technological literacy as a direct survival tool. They collaborate with other creators in private group chats, they share raw analytics, and they actively attempt to reverse engineer the algorithm. By finding technical workarounds and exploiting these hidden trends, they're able to claw back a crucial slice of agency and take control over their own livelihoods.
These tinkerers deploy very practical, grounded strategies to build a fortress around their mental health. They set strict working boundaries, actually physically turning off their phones and clocking out, even though the internet never sleeps. They use content batching. Think of a creator changing their shirt 5 times in one single afternoon to film a whole month's worth of material, just to avoid the agonizing daily pressure to produce. They aggressively diversify their income away from ad revenue, they eagerly offload repetitive tasks to AI, and they schedule actual extended breaks to completely shield themselves from the always-on culture. A massive part of this systemic survival is shifting your mindset. It all boils down to realizing that done is truly better than perfect. Surviving this economy means shedding perfectionism. It means actively relying on community support, letting go of the desperate need to appease every single commenter, and treating content creation as a sustainable long-term business. It absolutely has to be treated as a marathon, rather than a high-stakes 24/7 theatrical performance that eventually drains the performer completely dry.
As we wrap up this explainer, we really have to turn the lens back on ourselves for a minute. It leaves us wondering about our own personal role in this massive ecosystem. How are you, as a viewer, participating in these trans-parasocial relationships? Every single time you demand a new upload or expect a creator to be constantly available, replying in the comments, you have to ask yourself, what invisible machine are you feeding? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive today. Keep questioning the systems behind the screens.